Hey, what's good, guys?
What's happening, man? That intro is amazing.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
It's good.
really is. I figured out I'm the guy in the hat because both you guys were talking and laughing at the one guy in the hat. So I figured that's got to be me over there.
Yeah, I don't think that was you, buddy.
No?
No.
Oh, okay.
But hey, man, here's it's our first episode. Beers with the boys. I'm Sam, and then we got Nick up in the top left corner and Dan up in the top right. Us three, we talk daily, probably, I don't know, 50 texts, no exaggeration. And it's always about beer and football and making fun of Dan. So Dan was like,
not in that order, really.
Not in that order. So Dan was like, hey, man, we should record ourselves doing this. So yeah, this is what we're here. We're doing it. So yeah. We all three know each other from fantasy football. We're all three kids that grew up in the 80s and stuff where our parents told us not to make friends with strangers on the internet, and here we are. So
hi, strangers on the internet. We've all met.
Yeah.
I'm Sam. You can find me at KingSam_FF. Nick, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I am Nick. You can reach me at nick.brown with an E, GB.
I'm Dan from the Mosquito Muskies. You can meet me, or you can reach me at Demo99ER.
There you go. And we all play fantasy football, dynasty fantasy football. We're in a couple leagues together. At least me and Dan are. But all three of us are in Roster Wars, one of the best leagues out there. So we for the first episode, we asked for some folks to just ask us some questions so we could answer them. Some of them are geared towards Roster Wars, some aren't. So we'll try to make it geared towards everybody. But if you're interested, like I said, it's its own community, and you can definitely find us. And we always are looking for good owners. So part of this thing is we're gonna talk about a beer. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that started. And I think Dan, you're gonna be up first. All right, buddy. What you got?
All right. Got it. The beer I'm doing today is Happy Place, Midwestern IPA from Third Space Brewing. I'm going to try and do probably a different local brewery every time, every show. We have, seems like one on every corner in Milwaukee, so there'll be no shortage of new beers. The next one will be MKE. I was looking for some MKE, but I couldn't find the one I was trying to get to. But how can you argue with Happy Place? All right.
A Pilsner or IPA?
IPA.
Nice. All right, Nick,
I'm not a huge IPA fan, to be honest with you, but
really?
Nah. I mean, I like them, but it's like every beer you find now is an IPA.
Yeah.
I
like the brown ales a lot, but we'll go with this. I mean, I'm in a happy place right now, so.
It's because it's not fantasy season.
Hey. Everybody's undefeated, even the Muskies, so it's a happy 100%.
Place. All right, I'm up next. I have it's a New Glarus. This one is Moon Man.
I like that one.
So here in Wisconsin, a lot of people know the New Glarus Brewing Company as Spotted Cow, which is their biggest beer. People even come across the border for it. But this is my favorite from the brewery. New Glarus is a little town outside of Madison, about 35 minutes outside of Madison, Wisconsin, our capital. And it's a cool little town. You drive in, drive down this hill, and it looks like little Switzerland almost. Really cool brewery and an amazing beer, just a pale ale. So that's my beer today.
Yeah, I think that's the one that I liked when I came and visited you.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
100%.
All right, my turn. So I live in a small town. There's like 20,000 of us, so it's kind of not as small, I guess, but it's small. So I got a local place I go to, just like you do, Dan. It's if you ever go in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, it's called Pine and Porch. And the owner, he's a good buddy of mine. We talk fantasy football. His name's Tony, and he gave me this one. It's not from North Carolina, unfortunately. It's from Maine. But it's an IPA called Maine Beer Company's Wolf's Neck, and it's pretty good too. It's one of the better IPAs I've had. So, I like IPAs. Nick likes IPAs. Dan, you're weird.
I don't hate them.
Is it high octane?
No, this one's only 5.3. It's a low octane.
This one is 9.8. Not bad.
There you go.
Now, what about sours?
No.
There's breweries in the area that highlight sours. I don't like them.
I don't get the hype, man. No.
I can't do sours. I can't do well, I can do some seltzers, but not really. Some are all right.
Yeah. They're all right.
Yeah.
Better than
hazy.
Better than a Bud Light.
All right, well, that's our beer. We're going to go ahead and transition and get to the main show. All right. So like I said, we reached out to some folks to see what kind of questions we could have, and we're going to go through the slides and kind of just take turns answering stuff that that comes up. So the first question we got was from Colin. He's been in Roster Wars since 2017. And last year, the last couple of years, everybody were kind of talking about how running backs didn't have a lot of value in the NFL and how it was affecting in fantasy. So his question is, especially with this upcoming rookie class, says, did people go too far in devaluing the running backs in Dynasty? And are people coming into 2025 thinking running backs are more valuable than this time they were in 2024? So who wants to go first?
I would love to.
Nick, you're the running back king.
He loves running backs.
I hope they continue to devalue them as we progress. It seemed like when the NFL started kicking running backs to the curb and not giving them any coin, that fantasy owners did the same thing and dynasty owners did the same thing because their career isn't as long as receivers and other positions. But, man, running backs are where you make hay and where you can win your leagues. They're the most consistent out of any players. A lot of receivers outside of the top 5 have more down weeks than your better running backs. And I think that's where you can clean up. I think that Dynasty, you look in a 3 to 5 year window regardless. So if you can find a running back that's going to play for 3 to 5 years, there's your ticket.
And if I recall, you got like a bunch of running backs on your roster right now, right? In Roster Wars. Yeah,
and for the last few years, it's Saquon and CMC and JT and ETN, which I love ETN. A lot of people don't, which 2025 is the year. But I've been loaded at running back, and yeah.
Easy to love running backs when you got that running back one.
Yeah, but I traded for all of them when they were in lower value.
Right.
But if you can find and you can get any of those, those guys, not just those guys, but any top running back, you're going to do well, and people will give them away for a less qualified receiver or tight end or whatever you got.
It did.
Kirk Cousins for him in a super flex for CMC.
That's crazy.
That's all right. That's all right.
Did you trade that with Dan? Is that what happened?
Stop.
No, that was with the Silver Ballers.
Let's not assume that every time a player is traded poorly that it was given by Dan.
Well, Dan, you just went and inherited Kyron Williams, didn't you?
Yeah. I don't know. I was looking for a better running back. I needed something. I had James Cook for a hot minute and flipped him for some picks. And I like Kyron Williams. He's young enough. You're talking about the 3 to 5 year window. The thing is, do I think he's safe like a Barkley? No. Like a CMC? No. Like a Taylor? No. Because, you're talking about, with those guys, you're talking about, there's definitely a cutoff between the top 3-4 running backs. And then after that, I don't think anybody's really safe. Could somebody come in and take a big bite out of Kyron Williams' carries and stuff like that? Absolutely. But nobody, there's only a couple guys that are safe from that, in my opinion, in the NFL. But this last year, it seemed like the offenses were more content on grinding the ball a little bit more on the ground and maybe not throwing quite as much. So, I mean, that definitely translated into better, there were 17 running backs that scored 200 points or more this year. So, I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, that's kind of like the threshold for players in RW, right? Kind of 200 points.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit what I was going to say is I think last year was an outlier year where we had a lot of, well, I mean, CMC didn't have good health, but a lot of the running backs, they stayed pretty much healthy, throughout. And because of that, you saw running backs kind of dominate for fantasy scoring. So if you were running back heavy last year and your teams, it feels like you kind of did very well. And before that, that's when we were talking about, hey, Jonathan Taylor, all these guys wanted contracts and the NFL was not valuing as much. So it was if you zigged when everybody else zagged and you went running back heavy last year, it kind of felt like you could have made up some ground on people. But I agree with everything you guys said. Running backs, especially the ones that are going to get the volume, that's what I look for, are the ones that I want to kind of build around. And with how the NFL is operating nowadays, like I love Jahmyr Gibbs, but he's a 50-50, 60-40 kind of back. I mean, they make it work where he's good fantasy, but there's only a couple, in my opinion, running back rooms that are safe. And there's a lot of these rookies that are coming in, and everybody's telling everybody that, hey, look, this is an amazing year, just like 2017, where we got Kamara, CMC, and all those guys. Like, but I mean, outside of Atlanta and Philly, because they just gave that big contract, and maybe Detroit, like, I mean, anybody can be, a third round rookie can get inserted in any backfield, and all of a sudden your Trevor Etienne is.
You were talking about Kyron, he's got 1 year left in LA, so I guarantee you they're looking for the next guy to take his role. They took Corum last year. They'll draft another guy this year. I mean, teams don't want to pay $9 million a year for a quarterback if they don't, or for a running back if they don't have to. Like guys like Taylor and Barkley, unless you're the stupid New York Giants, are the exception. But I mean, Kyron. I mean, I'm sure they're looking for his replacement already, right?
I mean, people were jumping all over Corum last year because of that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. Like, you never know who they may draft this year, and with the amount of running backs that are coming out, like a lot of them are going to get drafted. So it's going to be a fun time, I think.
Yeah,
but it's just crazy though when you look at the NFL last year, and like Derrick Henry, man, got signed for it was like $8 million a year. A multi-year contract for $8 million a year, and you're looking at it going, okay, this guy's still good. That he's a difference maker. He's a game changer. He's a dude that's going to grind out wins for you. And he went for $8 million a year. Like, you can't – wide receiver threes are going for $15 million a year. I mean –
how much did who was it, man? Who's the one that signed with Buffalo? It came from the Chargers. Palmer. How much did he get? He got like 12, 13 million, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because we were talking about that, and he got hit, like, what was it? Because was it Dan? Dan was saying like, yeah, that's crazy. No, he got 3 years, $30 million, so $10 million a year.
It's $10 million, okay.
More than Henry.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think Henry's got to the point in his career where he's like, Ravens, okay, I'll take a little bit less to go to the Ravens or whatever. That's like the ideal place for him. But grind the ball out and
even look at one of the biggest paid. I think he's like top 3 or 4. Josh Jacobs, $12 million a year. I mean, would you rather have Josh Jacobs who's 26 and is going to be a difference maker for your offense, or Josh Palmer?
Nobody likes Josh Jacobs, bro. Nobody on this podcast likes the Packers. Right? So just like, quit trying to shove Packers shit down everybody's throat. Nobody likes them.
While we're on Josh Jacobs, I mean the Packers. I mean, they left themselves an out in that contract in case Jacobs didn't perform. I mean, that's how just volatile the running back position is. I mean, they easily could have. If he wasn't if he was injured last year or whatever, they could have got out of his contract this year, but he balled out. I mean,
Matt made a good comment too. That Giants just paid Darius Slayton what they could have paid Barkley last year, and they let him go. And obviously, Barkley got a big deal from the Eagles. So
that's an insane stat.
Yeah, I know, it's nuts.
That just gives you that's a Giants in a nutshell right there.
Yeah. Hey man, but they did the best deal possible right now. Simon James Winston.
There, Nick. Yeah.
Let's do a cheers to that.
35 touchdowns and 28 picks.
Dude, you're low on the picks, bro. It's going to be at least 60. But I tell you what, Malik Neighbors is going to have 3,000 yards.
Oh, yeah.
And Winston's going to be a top 12 fantasy quarterback. So that's all that matters.
That should be the number one goal. Keep Neighbors happy. Just feed them. Feed them.
Yeah. 200 targets. All right. So, like I said, we got some people from Twitter that responded as well. So, I can't say this if I say this wrong. Recusher at Sam Recusher said, in your opinion, what is the biggest pet peeve you've encountered with a trade partner where the behavior limits your ability to get a deal done? So we'll round robin. Dan, you can start with this one.
I think primarily it's just kind of the unwillingness to negotiate a little bit. You know, everybody's got their philosophy as far as their initial offer, right? I mean, people don't like lowball picks, but we've seen that in our league over and over and over where you got to kind of start with a low ball, but just understand, like, I'll kind of put a disclaimer, like, hey, starting offer, you know, if you want to make this work, let's talk about it, you know, but you got to start low. I mean, you don't know what the other person's thinking. You don't know where they're at with any potential rebuilds or, you know, it changes so often in RW. It's crazy. So I think just that willingness to not negotiate, just you get a, you know, rejection and crickets. That's kind of the most frustrating thing. I mean, I'm guilty of it too, I guess. It was such a absurd offer, and I'm like, no, we're not even going there. You know, like, I mean, I'm guilty of it too, but I try not to do that. That's probably the most frustrating part.
I think I agree with you. Like, that's frustrating when you just get a rejection with no comment or whatever, because my pet peeve is probably is courtesy. It's like if someone's not willing to, like, kind of like you said, like put in the time to respond to a trade offer, or like they take 70 hours instead of 72 to give you a decline or with no context or no nothing. That's annoying. But I'm not one that likes to start low. Like, I'm going to look at your roster and I'm like looking at it from my perspective. Obviously I'm not you, but I'm looking at your roster and say, hey, I think this would benefit you. I think this would benefit me. And so I try to send an offer that is decent, because if I get one that's out to lunch, I'm not wasting my time. But yeah, I think my pet peeve is probably folks that don't want to try, and they want to they're not really engaging in it. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I was going to say starting offer when somebody offends you, or not offends you, but sends a dog meat offer. But I'll go different direction. Something we were discussing earlier is when you're in negotiations and the person throws something out of left field that's either very different from what you were discussing, or when you were closing the gap a little bit, then they change something so drastic. Tom, T-Bone. No, but when they change something so drastic, and it's like, okay, we were just here and now you're way over here. Like, where are you going? What are you doing with this?
Yeah, we got some folks in the audience too. We got Tyler as a in roster was with us, the Warlocks. He says for him, it's when guys use age and contract years to lowball a player's talent. And then we got Matt that says for him, it's when people pretend age and contract years shouldn't play a factor in player value.
That's exactly what I would expect from Matt.
I mean, I do consider age and contract years. I'm not. We got a couple owners, at least on my side of the league. In Roster Wars, there's 4 different leagues, pretty much, each with 12 teams. So there's pretty much 48 teams in it. We all kind of operate differently. Like every league is its own entity, its own world, pretty much. But I do look at contract years. I do look at age. Like all that factors into my overall plan. But I'm not going to use car salesman to you and say, hey, look, this dude's got no value because of this, because he's 30. But
we were just talking about Derrick Henry. I mean, there's a perfect example, like, or Mike Evans. Like, they're typically worth more on their team than they are in trade value because you have to take age into consideration. Their value's upside down. Like, the second the Muskies trade for a Mike Evans, the guy breaks both ankles and never plays again. So
you bite your tongue. You take that out of your mouth. Mike Evans will never break an ankle.
He's a phenomenal player, but like, I mean, who's going to give up high value for a guy that's got a ton of miles on him? I mean, their value's just skewed so much because of age,
Yeah, I think the big factor when we're discussing trades is like everybody's got their own evaluation. Everybody's got their own people they follow or ways they think, and so that's why I value communication. So hey, look, I can't read your mind. So like, I'll tell you I'll be honest, and I'll tell you, hey, look, I like this guy, or I'm interested in this guy. I think this guy would fit for you, or this pick would fit for you, what you're trying to do. And if you're not willing to like put in any effort, then that quickly becomes like, hey, look, I'm just not going to waste my time. Like, because we're not going to get anywhere, because I'm not going to read your mind, and I'm not going to throw 30 offers at a wall waiting for shit to stick. Like, it ain't going to happen. But I'll put in the work if you put in the work.
Yeah.
That's me. That's my pet peeve.
Hey, I want to throw one more in there. When somebody reaches out to you and they want one of your guys and they bash him and tell you why he's horrible.
You should give him up.
Yeah, well, and I get it, like trying to bring him down a little bit or whatever, but it's like, okay, you're reaching out, obviously you want him. Obviously you don't think he's so bad, but
I also don't like when somebody sends a trade offer for a person or a pick and then nothing in return and says, what do you want? Like, bro, do a little bit of work. And like, help me help you. But I think we could probably go on that topic all day. But I think those are I know for me, that's my main thing, is just being a willing trade partner. So
totally.
All right. Next question is, it's from Matt. He's in the audience right now. So he says, in roster wars, owners decide not to use the compensation tag during RFA. Why would you not use it? And for clarification, what we do in roster wars, right, is we have 120 contract years every year.
Can you make that screen bigger, Sam?
I can't, bro. You can full screen your thing and see it bigger. But I'll read it to you. So in roster wars, we have 120 contract years every year, right? And every year, January 1st, the contracts roll over because it's contract league. So if you have a dude that's on a 1-year deal in 2025, then in 2026 he goes to a 0-year deal, or he's a restricted free agent. It's kind of just like what the NFL does. And so we get $225 or war bucks or blind bidding dollars, whatever your league uses, and we can use those as we see fit. And we have 5 different tags that we can use for a period from April 1st to usually April 30th, usually the whole month of April, where we call it restricted free agency, where my player, your player, anybody's player that is on a 0-year deal can be bid on by the rest of the league. And so these tags are, one's called the super franchise tag. It costs $100 of those dollars, and it means that player is like off limits. No one can bid on them. They are yours. They're yours to keep. The other one that's kind of off limits is the contract extension. That one's for $20, and that one just means, hey, look, you're extending that player 1 more year, so he's unavailable. Then the other 3 tags that you kind of have to compete with is a franchise tag, which costs $50, and someone's got to bid at least 51 on them and a first-round pick. Transition tag is depends on what round you give them. So you can give them a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th round value. Most people, like 99% of the time, give them a 2nd round value. And that's cost $25, and then it goes down from there. But for someone to bid on a transition tag for a 2nd round player, they had to get $25 and a 2nd round pick. And then the last one is what Matt's talking about, the compensation tag. So compensation tag means that, hey, you are no longer you don't even have like a opportunity to compete for this player. This player is leaving your team. You pay $10, and whatever they get bid on is what you get. So if I pay $10 for and put Jameis Winston out there for a comp tag and he goes for 5, then I just lost 5. But majority of the time, these guys kind of go for more than 10. So his question is, why do players or why do owners not use the comp tag? What do you guys think?
Well, there's just a lot of inconsistency there with the value you get for them. Just the history of the comp tag has been all over the place. You know, you get, I don't know, I think you kind of have to look at what players are available at that particular position and hope that your player kind of gets bid up. Like, you know, if you got a safety, I've had safeties go for 30, 40 WBs, and that you get wide receivers that go for 11 or whatever. Like Nick, one year you and I were bidding up this defensive tackle. I mean, we got into like the 30s or 40s. I can't even remember his name anymore. I think he played for the 49ers. But like, you just find one guy that just.
So Dan,
right.
are you a comp tag person or are you a non-comp tag person?
No comp.
Oh.
Unless it's a position like a quarterback, wide receiver. I'm second guessing comping any defensive players. It have to be someone I absolutely know would draw more than 10.
So I'll tell you, man, like I'll forecast this and let you know, like there's another question about some tags coming up, and we actually go through some of the last year's tags, and there was a defender that I think he got like $100 back on the comp tag. You sure you still feel that way?
Well, I mean, who was it? I mean, if you're talking like an elite linebacker, okay. I mean, you know,
all right.
I think like, and it depends on your league too, because you guys like on that side of the river, like you guys have a lot of Warbucks and a lot of blind bidding dollars, and so like our conference doesn't typically spend that much, and there are a lot of owners in our conference that are a little bit more mindful of that, or like I shouldn't say mindful, I should say
stingy,
petty, and they don't want to. They're like, screw that, Dan's getting Warbucks. I'm making him rich doing this. No way, I'm not gonna. And so most owners don't bid on them.
I think that does come into play.
That isn't always the case, but it happens.
So are you comp tagging somebody this year or no?
Who are you talking to?
You. I mean, I know me? Dan's not. Yeah, you.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you mean?
I may this year, but to tell the truth, I've comp tagged somebody one time in a decade in this league.
Damn.
So.
All right, we'll go to Easy says the only reason he would do it is if he doesn't have players, or he wouldn't use it, is if he doesn't have players his confident would go over 10, or he doesn't have someone he'd want to keep after all the tags. And Matt says if you don't have one, and this is exactly where I was going to go, then you trade for one because it's leaving money on the table. And I agree. Like if your team is built to where, and honestly, I try to build my team where my contracts they're not going to hurt me. Like, hey, I'm planning out like who I'm going to do tags on in a year or 2 years, 3 years from now. And then when it comes up to it, then I'm not stuck in a pickle. But sometimes you make trades, sometimes you make free agent acquisitions, and you get where you're at. But like this year, I went and traded for a guy to comp tag because I agree with what Matt said. Like if it's $10 and if you tag the right person, you can get some money back.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking at trading for somebody that is going to be a big draw or get you some nice Warbucks in return. I mean, then you got to give up more assets though too, So I mean, there is a give and a take, and like there is no guarantee. I mean, I was kind of just by a point last year. I was pulling comp tags out like day one. I was bringing all the comp tags out.
I mean, it's definitely a strategy to it. If when they go, who they go to, like depending on, you got to read the room. If it's the last person in that position group. But I agree with you, man. Like there is something to it where hey, I know that if I bid an extra $1 on this guy, like it's going to somebody else, and I don't want to help somebody else's pockets. So there is that fear. But I think for $10, man, you can find somebody usually out there that you want to put that on.
Just out of curiosity, who was the like $100 linebacker or whoever that went? Was it like Roquan Smith?
Oh, let me see, man. I don't have it. We're gonna get to it, but I think it was.
I mean, I would comp tag Roquan Smith if all my other tags were taken up. I know I'm cashing in with a linebacker like that, you know.
So Max Crosby was the highest one last year. That went for 89.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, so we're talking about tags. We'll just get right to the next one. The next one is a beautiful Colin or a beautiful Corbin with his picture here. He has been an owner since 2021. He says, he says, what tag that has been declared in roster wars do you agree with or disagree with most? So for non-roster wars, so our tags are due next week. March 31st is when when it's done, you have to like have them finalized. And us three kind of discussed, and we didn't want to put anything out there that was poor form or give secrets away or, do anything that would make anybody do anything different. So we're going to answer this, but we're going to answer this talking about last year. So we're going to talk about last year's tags, going over each one and kind of just say, hey, which ones do we agree with and which ones do we not agree with? So for last year, looking at, we'll do the first couple for the main league. So main league franchise tags, you can see who franchise tagged who here. So on the main league, you had Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Kyron Williams, Nick Bolton, TJ Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift, T. Higgins, Nico Collins, Terry McLaurin for the Dastardly Dozen League. Then Cole Kmet, Matthew Stafford, T. Higgins, Bolton again, Josh Jacobs, Derek Carr, Tony Pollard, Jaden Reed, and Nico for the Terrible 12. And out of all of those, most of them were safe. Nick Bolton got bid on in the DD, and someone won him. I think it was Andy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Andy had to pay $80 and give up the 112 in last year's draft. And then T. Higgins was another one that was won by somebody where they had to give up the 111. Other than that, TJ Hawkinson and Nico, so they were able to, both owners, they're the Crusaders and the Nighthawks were able to defend those attempted bids and pay additional money besides just the 50 initial, so 40 and 35. And then on the TT side, T. Higgins got bid on, and they had a bid. Bill of the Justice had a bid 45, and then Ed of the Oysters had to bid an extra 35 to keep them. So for the most part, franchise tags last year were pretty safe. At least that's what I think. What do you guys get from that?
Yeah, I mean,
my biggest one. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
No, go ahead.
I mean, all the tags are used on pretty solid players. This being last year, we can use hindsight and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, Swift is one of the players that I owned in 2 different leagues last year, and I moved on from him and I got out underneath him as fast as I could. God, I just don't know. I mean, if he would have, I mean, he had the opportunity to do it in Detroit, didn't do it. Obviously, moving on. A lot of people last year were saying that, yeah, he could get touches, a lot more touches. He could clean up, but that was one that stuck out to me in a pool of great players that I wasn't a fan of.
There were, looking at the list, there's a few. Obviously, you can, sometimes with the franchise tag, you're looking to protect your player, right? Like, you're not going to get a first one. You're just looking to protect them to hope to hit on their like trajectory, right? So like Cole Kmet last year. Sorry, E, that one hurts a little bit, right? Tony Pollard, yeah, but you don't know. Yeah, you take your chances and
yeah. I think I agree with you, man. Both of you, like, you're using hindsight here, right? Because I don't know about Commit, but I know like Tony Pollard and even Jaden Reed, like there was a lot of hype building for both of those guys, and I can understand like, hey, you're trying to protect them. And so maybe that's what you use to protect them. That way you keep them on your roster.
Yep.
But they probably weren't worth that. Cole Kmet probably wasn't worth that. DeAndre Swift probably wasn't worth that. But once again, that's what we're looking at like now. So
DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at the finishing, and now that we're looking back, I mean, Tony Pollard was a middling running back too. He's running back 18. Obviously,
Nick Bolton was a linebacker too, at best, I think. So
yeah.
But like slapping that franchise tag on him, you're spending your $50, but nobody's giving up a first and that. So you're basically saying, I'm staking my claim. I'm not going to mess with it in RFA or restricted free agency, and protecting that guy. If you love him that much,
well, that's part of it, right? That's part of it. It's like, what are you trying to do with it? Because I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I'll be transparent. Like, my franchise tag is Chuba Hubbard. Like, you want to come get Chuba for a first round pick and everything else?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. Because I'll take that first round pick and I'll flip it and I'll do something better with it. So, like, I'm protecting him because I'm trying to be in a win now window, and he helps that.
Yep.
But if you want to give me a first and more, let's go.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that could be the same thing with, well, I know it wouldn't commit because Easy's on a rebuild, but like on Tony Pollard, the Gold Diggers, they were, they were on a playoff run. Jaden Reed, I just think, yeah, man, he's a Packer. He sucks. So
there's a bit of a hiccup. Bet against them,
Well, I think Nick and we talked about it. I don't think you agree with this statement, Dan, but I think Nick and I both do. I don't want a damn Packer receiver, man, because it's spread around too much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nobody's the focal point. It could be anybody's week in any given time, and you can't depend on any of them on any given week.
But yeah, Jaden Reed was that's why Eric said that's a steel catch right there. He was making fun of him. Agreed. And then the right side of the column was the super franchise tag. So obviously you don't have to use every tag. Most times, most people don't. Super franchise tag is the most rarely used one. And the ones that were used was on Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Puka Nacua, my man, Big Cock Brock Purdy, and then Kyler Murray and Jordan Love. So I don't really disagree with any of those. Superflex league, quarterbacks are king. That's what you got to do to protect them sometimes. You guys got any issues with any of those?
No, not at all.
Cool. All right, we'll move on to the next set of tags.
No, I mean,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I definitely don't have a problem with any of them. I mean, the super tag is so crazy expensive, but if you have a setup and you only have 2 tags to take care of your guys that nobody can touch, I mean, I'll spend it. I spent it last year.
Yeah. All right, the next tag we'll talk about is one of the ones that is mainly used, I think, in both leagues. We'll talk about it on the main league, and then the next 2 tags we'll talk about it in the other league, the Futures League. So in the main league, the transition tags, they were used on Ed Oliver, Levante David, Cameron Bynum, Logan Wilson, Deontay Johnson, Terrell Bernard, Tony Pollard, Zaire Franklin, Evan Ingram, Jesse Bates, and then on the other side, Romeo Dobbs, Justin Madueke, Alex Highsmith, Dallas Goedert, Aiden O'Connell, Sam Darnold, Robert Spillane, Josh Allen, the defensive end, Christian Harris, Zach Seiler, Jalen Phillips, and TJ Edwards. So you get a wider range of folks with the transition tag. And once again, it's, hey, you're trying to put a value on a player that either you want to keep them or that, hey, you're comfortable losing them. And you see a lot more folks, a lot more transactions with these guys because you got to bid a second round, or I think I was the only one, and I got it wrong no, I got it right here. No, Aiden O'Connell, he was a 3rd round value, and then Sam Darnold, I put him as a 5th round value. But everybody else puts him at a second, because why would you not put it as a second unless the only reason I did it is because I didn't want to spend the Warbucks. I was trying to save it. But this is where it's fun, I think, transition tags, because you'll see one go and then it just catapults to the next one because they use that pick they get, and then it just like a domino that falls.
Guy we were just talking about, Tony Pollard, not even bid on in transition tag.
Nope.
Yeah. Hey, how about
Yes.
that Sam Darnold for a fifth?
Sam, I was just gonna say for a QB1,
Where's your crystal
man.
ball on that one, man? Come on.
Hey man, like you can't fucking predict everything. I was trying to be transparent on it. I was trying to sell Sam Darnold, and he was an RFA, and he was a backup quarterback, and no one wanted him. So I don't think last year I used a comp tag. So I kind of used Sam Darnold as my comp tag, and I said, hey, look, instead of paying $10 for a comp tag, I'm going to pay $10 for this fucking thing, and I'm going to get $10 and a 5th round pick back. And so it worked out for me. And then Sam Darnold, and then JJ got hurt, and then Sam Darnold went out and balled out. So
yeah,
kind of sucked.
Who could have predicted that? Come on, man. Like, Sam Darnold has been horrible everywhere.
Yeah.
Hold on real quick. Easy. Stay the fuck away from the Njoku.
I'm an Njoku guy too. Love that guy. He's so undervalued though. Like it, and to be transparent, Njoku will probably get a transition tag this year, and it's like somebody might look at him and go, "Oh, what is he? Is Njoku like 29?"
He is old.
That older?
And he ain't got no quarterback. He's got no business going to a team that's rebuilding, right?
But dude is always like a back end, tight end one, or somewhere around there, and mid range.
That's a thing. Can you imagine that guy with a good quarterback year after year? Like, he could have been scary.
So is there anybody on this list that stands out as either, hey, that was a great tag for whatever reason, or that was a waste of money, besides Sam Darnold being a dumb mistake?
At the end of the day, Romeo Dobbs didn't pan out to anything. He wasn't even startable. AOC, waste of money.
I mean, at the time, though, I think it was between him and Minshew, and I think, and in full context, the owner, Sty, also owned Minshew, so I think he was hedging his bets.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
But, man, that Josh Allen, bro, that Josh Allen defensive end, so somebody bid the Steel Cats up, and he had to pay an extra 60, so he ended up paying 85 Warbucks to keep Josh Allen.
Yeah, wow. Almost a super tag.
Yeah. I don't remember how he did for the year, but I don't know if it was worth that amount of money to be spent.
Yeah.
I think he was a fringe like 200-point guy. Like, okay, right?
But what we're also losing, like, obviously we're looking at this with hindsight, but what we're also losing is the schedule, right? So, like, this shit starts April 1st, and then it just goes. And so if this guy gets, depending on when they get bid on, that may be the last guy. So because he's the last guy, people are going hard after him, So
yeah, look at Metabuke is one that stands out for me. I mean, he was a stud the previous year, and second round and 80 Warbucks to get him. I don't know what happened to him this year, why he wasn't the guy he was the previous year, but
dude, defenders, man, they're fickle. Like, it's tough.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, you have a very small percentage that you don't have a roller coaster of up and down years, and those are the guys you pay for, right?
Yeah. All right, next we're going to talk about in the Futures League what they did with their contract extensions. So this is pretty much everybody just got a 1-year contract extension. Jordan Love, he ended up being a quarterback 17. Saquon Barkley ended up getting a contract extension. He ended up being running back 1. Tua, quarterback 20. The Naperville Divine declined it. Next one was the Spurs. Harrison Phillips, defensive tackle, 31. Pacheco for the Mayhem. He got hurt, so he was running back 63. Kyler Murray was quarterback 11. Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver 3. Kyle Duggar, safety 35. Tank Dell, got hurt, wide receiver 42. Kyron, running back 8, and then the Raiders declined it. And then on the other side, Puffins, Blitz, Unforgiven, and Unicorns all declined. And then you had Tua, which I already said, Ramondre Steven, running back 24, CMC, lost year, running back 68, Bobby Okikere, linebacker 38, Joe Mixon, running back 13, Mike Williams, wide receiver 109. And then Kyron Williams again, and then Brandon Ayuk. So these are the guys that just automatically got extended. besides the ones that are declines, because I have no clue. In my opinion, I'll start. In my opinion, I don't know why anybody would decline anybody. Like,
how? That is the most valuable tag that you can have. How would you decline that?
Even if I don't have anybody that's expiring, for me, I personally, I would use it on somebody that
add a year.
Add a year. Yep, because you can do it on somebody that's not a RFA. I don't understand why this tag is not used every single year by every person. I didn't add up the main league guys, but in the minor league or in the futures league, that's 6 teams out of 24 that didn't even use it. That's crazy.
Bonkers.
Yep. But outside of those guys, yeah, I think Kyle Duggar is the main one that stands out. That's just I don't trust defensive players, and I wouldn't trust the safety. And then I've never been a BMW. I know you are, but I've never been a BMW guy. So like those two are the ones I'm like, I was kind of a waste of money.
109, wide receiver 109. Is that his model, BMW? The 109 model.
I love BMW almost as much as Jameis Winston, and we all have those guys that we like that aren't very good. But
I love all 5 games of him too. Like, what's not to like? But that's the problem.
In those 5 games, he had 30 drops.
Yeah, using an extension on BMW wasn't good.
All right, what you guys got?
I look at that tag though. I look at that tag as one of your most valuable players because you are not putting a tag on them where somebody has the opportunity to steal them. You're putting a tag on them to protect them so that nobody can steal them. And if BMW is one of your guys that nobody can steal, you're in trouble.
He might be a Muskie.
What do you mean? Let's see. Last year, my extension was Wicks.
Ooh.
Didn't go so well. Yeah. But it was better than transition tagging him. You know, I took a chance on him. That's kind of how I look at the extension tag. It's like I didn't want to add a year to somebody, but I wanted to see more of this guy and have control over him. So that's what I was kind of.
And sometimes there's different reasons to tag different people, so I get that.
Yeah.
But I think I would have used it differently than on the Kyle Duggar pick, in my opinion. No shade at Keith and his Falcons, but like I think I could have, especially looking at his roster, I would have managed it differently. But so those were the contract extensions for last year for the Futures League, and then the last one we'll talk about is going to be the comp tags, which we alluded to earlier and we talked about. And once again, you can see, at least in the Futures League, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12. So pretty much half the league. When you talk about both leagues, 12 out of 24 owners did not use it. The only one that you can see that was a negative is the one in red, Raheem Mostert. I kind of just completely disagree with tagging him in the first place because, you know, HN and it just didn't seem like it was a wise choice, but he was tagged, and Connie, the Badgers, she ended up losing $4 because she only got 6 back. But everybody else was a net profit. Devin White got 23. CJ Mosley, who played like next to nothing, got 12. Christian Barmore, who played next to nothing because of the blood clot stuff, got 27. Zach Moss, I got sucked into that and traded for that guy. He got next to nothing, and he got 21. Nick Bolton, big one. Nick Bolton went. He was a franchise tag that Andy went and got that we talked about earlier. He went for 67. Kenneth Murray, linebacker, went for 45. Spillane went for 40. Travis Kelce went for 41. CJ Mosley on the other side went for 40. So, damn, that's a big difference. 12 on one side, 40 on the other. Geno Smith, starting quarterback, that's crazy, went for 25. And Superflex, that's crazy. And Max Crosby went for $1 under. He went for 99. So, I'm still the mindset. Comp tag is just like the extension tag. It should almost always be used.
Yeah. Maybe my roster, you know, being the Muskies, I just never looked at it and felt comfortable enough. You know.
You're going to get 10 more bucks out of somebody.
Yeah. You got to take that into consideration. Come on. I mean, who on my roster this year would I comp tag and be like, all right, I'm getting at least 11 for this dude?
You're telling me that you can't trade like a 4th round, 5th round pick for somebody you think is going to get 15, 20 Warbucks? I don't know. Like,
yeah, but okay. Here's my problem with it. All right, you spend a 4th round to get somebody, and in our side of the conference, nobody is trading anybody of any value for a 4th round, even if he's a 0-year guy and he, if he has any value, he's not getting just a 4th round. So then you trade the 4th round, which is probably worth about $10, and then you spend $10 to comp tag him. So you're $20 deep. So you have to make 21 just to make $1, which isn't even working.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You guys are on a different side, so maybe it's just different. I mean, if it was me and I didn't have a comp tag, or if I didn't have somebody on my roster I felt like a comp tag, I'd be targeting a guy that has a lot of expiring contracts with valuable players, and I'd be trying to do that. Like, once again, I'll be transparent with my team. I gave away the 311 to Matt for Aaron Jones. I like what Minnesota did, adding a guard and a tackle. I think Aaron Jones is going to have a good year. I have no problem comp tagging him and seeing where that goes.
Yeah, and if you can get a player for that late of a pick, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But every league's different. I know Eric says he thinks the TT, a lot of people are scared to do it. It's a risk reward. Yep. And I get it.
I think that's the case across the board for most people. It's let's see. I think one year I got Cole Beasley, 3 WBs from Sty. I like me some Cole Beasley, especially for 3 Warbucks.
Yeah. Oh, Matt wanted to add in my comment. Yeah, when I gave him the 311, he also gave me $10, so he paid for my comp tag. I forgot about that because I make Matt pay.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
and you play to win the game.
You play to win the game.
One thing I do like on that list, though, Travis Kelce.
That was a good tag.
I like that for aging players, especially like if you're not competing or you don't think you're going to win it all. I mean, or you just want to move on from an older player. I mean, that has a big name and that still produces. You can still get that. I agree with totally.
Yep, I agree. The Geno Smith stands out. Like, that's crazy. Someone paid $25 to get that. But all right, comp tags. I think we're all in disagreement, but you guys are wrong. You should always use them. So. And then Corbin asked a follow-on question, which we're not going to discuss because he wanted to ask which ones we thought were the craziest, and we just don't want to. We don't want to do anything or say anything that's talking across the table. So, sorry, Corbin. All right, next question is Matty Warbucks. He's got this fucking nickname because he's a Warbuck hoarder. So his question is, of course, about this, and he says, how many Warbucks or blind bidding dollars is too much? And this was a snapshot from a couple of days ago. I think there's been at least 1 or maybe 2 trades since then. So this is every conference that's broken down in the different columns. The top 3 in each conference is in the green, and the bottom 3 is in the pink. And you can see like the disparity, how each conference operates differently. So you guys over there, like, it's huge. Like, you got the biggest ones with 470 with the Eternals and Silver Ballers with 90, 95. Then on our side, the biggest one is Haji. I think he's got the most out of everybody with 580. And then our lowest is going to be Sty, which actually made him spend 15. So he's like actually at 131, I think, right now. In the futures and the PP and the promising prospects, their biggest is going to be 361 and lowest is 238. So they're kind of like, or 237. They're kind of all together. And then the guy that asked his conference, the Rising Rookies, they have a big disparity too, where he's got the most at 445. And then the least amount is going to be 240, 242. So I don't know how to answer it. How much is too much? I think it all depends on what you're trying to do. Kind of like when you're building like a team, like you want to make sure that, hey, in my opinion, like what I did when I rebuilt my team is I targeted a certain draft. I targeted last year, and I went fucking all in with like so many rookie picks that I could get. I think it's probably a similar strategy to do with Warbucks is, hey, look, you can kind of forecast that, hey, maybe this year or next year or 2 years from now, there's going to be a lot of guys on expiring contracts. I want to save up for that. And so having some in the bank is always good, but money in the bank don't want fucking win games. So that's how I play. Like, I know, Nick, you're a fuck them picks kind of guy. So you're probably in the agreement. Dan doesn't know what it means to win. So like, he doesn't know.
I just have to say, go ahead, Dan. You're up.
No, your audio came out for a minute. I didn't hear what you said. No, I fucking heard you, asshole. I mean, great. You got 400 Warbucks. What's the end game? You know, like, why don't you just be like, I mean, at a certain point, you're just going to be like, I want the best player in RFA. I don't care what it takes to get it.
Yeah.
I'm going to add him. But, you know, at what point? You're going to get to 600 and then decide to do that? Or, I mean, I don't understand adding, like, retaining that many Warbucks. I mean, great, but what's the end game there? What's the plan? You know,
I agree. I think if you're going to do it, you got to have a plan to do something with them. I know I played with Craig, the Naperville Divine. He's in the Promising Prospects now, and he was one that would hoard them and just never use them. I've never seen Haji with as much, so his 580. We'll see what he does. Matty Warbucks, like he's got the nickname Matty Warbucks because I think he always has a big stack. So that's just kind of maybe how he plays. But
go buy some picks or something. Like, I don't know, if you're a drafter, if you like the draft, go buy a first round pick or something. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. So the answer to the question is how much is too much is if it's just wasted on your fucking roster, then it's too fucking much. You got
Matt has too much.
Yeah, Matt has too much. Sorry, Matt, you got too much.
Who else is in that range of Matt? Andy's got
the only other one is Andy and
Andy.
Haji.
You got too much.
Haji, you got too much.
Haji, you got too much.
You should just give them away, is what it is.
Yeah, just come on.
580 is a lot, man. That is, as somebody who spends them down to zero in most years, I mean, they're there so you can bid on guys that will make your team better. I mean, you better spend, motherfucker.
All right, next question we got, and we'll go ahead and call this the last question so we can get to the next segment. Is we got this one from Twitter from at Springfield DL. He says, given the current landscape of the dynasty leagues, what are your top 3 to 5 rookies you're most excited about and why? Focus on both potential and current dynasty value. And I know Nick loves rookies, so we should let him start off.
Look, okay. I always get shit because I am not a believer until you show me. But every class obviously has good rookies. You know, if you want to look at, okay, yeah, I'm excited about JT. Okay, yeah, he's the 1-1. Who wouldn't be excited about him? He's a great dude. But I like Egbuka as a receiver. He is exciting. Hampton's another high pick, you know, but that dude, oh my God, he's fun to watch. But my dude is Judkins. And I don't have a chance to draft him in any league. I actually just saw a Twitter thing on him, and the dude is like pulling trucks and just busting weights. And I think that dude should be, he should be up there with JT. He's a stud.
What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm kind of. I don't know. You're the pick guy, to be honest with you. I mean, I get a pick here and there and usually waste it, but this year I'm going a different direction with my picks, so we'll see what the bargain bin has to offer. But I don't know. You know, I have a biased point of view because I'm always looking at what the Packers could add to to make their team better. So
wait, you like the Packers?
I like the
didn't know that.
Brewers.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Now you know. Now you know. I'm looking at two guys the Packers are probably looking at to draft in defensive end. The two guys I'm excited about are Pierce and Green, Mike Green and James Pierce.
Who the fuck is that?
Mike Green?
Yeah.
Oh man. Well,
let
me start by saying he's going to be the DE1 on the Green Bay
Rashawn Gary replacement. Got it.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, but I'd rather have James Pierce, but I think they got to draft an edge and finally draft an edge that has had some success in college, not just a project guy. But so, I mean, those are the guys. That's a guy I'm excited about most. I agree with Nick on his. I mean, obviously the Packers aren't in play for. I mean, let's face it, we're not taking a wide receiver in the first round because that never happened. So,
yeah.
But so
I mean, the easy ones are Ginty, right? He's like the stone cold 1-1. Like everybody in rookie draft, even in Superflex, he's the 1-1. I do like Hampton. I do like Judkins, but I like Travion better. And it's a good class, man. Like you can't go. Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, like those four, and then I'm high on Caleb Johnson too. So like those five, I think are good. It's a good time to have a first round pick if you're looking to add a running back to your room. For wide receivers, Ibuka's not my number one. He's talented. Tet's not my number one. He's talented, but I mean, I got somebody else in mind that I like. I don't want to reveal. I like Luther Burden, man. I think Burden is fucking dope. I like him a lot for wide receivers. But the game changer, in my opinion, and this is for guys that play in IDP, is fucking Travis Hunter. What is this? Is a crazy dude. Like this is like new territory. Like I've seen reports that if Cleveland drafts him, which I don't think they do because they need a quarterback at 2, but they value him. They view him as a wide receiver. Like he's dope. I think he's a better wide receiver than he is a corner. I think if they want him to play both ways, he's probably got to be a slot corner and just get like 15 manufactured touches on offense. But I like Hunter, man. He's interesting. And dynasty rookie drafts, like there's no fucking telling. I don't think I don't know. Maybe he'll be a first round pick, but that's you got to throw your nuts on the table, like to draft that. Like you have no fucking clue what's going to happen.
That's a topic on its own. I mean, how high do you draft Travis Hunter? Because if that dude gets drafted and he plays wide receiver and he gets a shit ton of snaps at wide receiver, he could be bonkers. Like he is uber talented.
Yeah. There you go. He can play wide receiver and corner in the same play.
Yep.
Now those are the big ones. I mean, I think the tight end class is decent too. Like they're I don't know, I think it's more decent actually. With Tyler Warren, with Loveland, and then you got at least like 2 or 3 other ones that should probably get second, third round capital that could, a lot of this in my opinion is going to be based off draft capital and landing spot. And draft capital for running backs, it may look different because you have so fucking many of them. Like these NFL teams may say, hey, I'm going to go after offensive tackle or whatever, because positional scarcity is a little more. And so the day 2 running back might actually be fucking day 3, but still be good like a day 2 because there's just so fucking many and it's pick your flavor kind of shit. So there's a lot, of different threads you can go down with this year in the NFL draft, and any year it's fun, but it's especially fun. So
I think the running back for me anyway is one of the hardest to evaluate. I don't know, like there's so many variables when you're trying to evaluate a running back just based on offensive line usage, if they'll get a legitimate shot. I mean, there's plenty of running backs in the NFL that were drafted in the 4th, 5th round.
Yeah.
Like it's, and it's just a matter of getting that opportunity at the right time. It's so all over the place. I have a really hard time evaluating them. I'm notoriously horrible at drafting running backs.
Well, since we're talking about things you're notoriously horrible at, let's just go to the next segment, which is In the Mind of Dan.
Oh, boy. You're entering a scary zone.
So Dan is our resident. I don't even know. How do we describe this?
Scapegoat?
He says some weird fucking shit, and we like to make fun of him because of it. So the most recent one is Mac Jones is going to be better than Brock Purdy. I'm from Wisconsin. I don't like cheese curds. Christian Kirk is a wide receiver. I don't know, 4.
Oh, God, that hurts.
Like what? Where do we want to go here?
Christian. Oh, okay. Now my mind is spinning right now. I'll tell you that right now. Like I don't even know where to start. Christian Kirk, horrible.
Go ahead.
No, fucking horrible.
Why is he horrible?
He's not. Don't expect shit from him. No, he's not a wide receiver 2. I don't care what team he's on. No. What else you got? Cheese curds. I don't know. They're underrated or overrated.
You mean overrated?
Overrated. No, I mean great fried cheese. Awesome. Okay.
Oh man, Sam, I wish I would have sent you. I wish you could post that picture right now of the cheese curds that I ate yesterday. Absolutely incredible. It's this little place, little plug, Dykesville Goal, it's called, in this little town. The best fried cheese curds. Dan, you would be in heaven.
Here we go.
Dan, what do you think about Tyrone Tracy?
Well, I drafted him. I like him. I traded him. Guess who has him now? Which, means that he's really good. John. So, fuck myself over on that one.
Future.
Yeah. Here. Okay, John, if you're listening, and Ian, Atlanta Africans. If they're interested in a player, that's good. That just means their value just went up, and I am less likely to trade them. So.
I don't foresee anybody looking at the Muskego Muskies roster and being interested.
Stop yourself. I have some interesting fellows.
I have a question.
Yeah.
All right. So
Proceed.
if you are in a dynasty, if you're in a dynasty league and you find yourself in the precarious situation where you're the bottom team and you don't have a ton of assets or picks or whatever, how do you dig your way out of it? What do you do? What's in your mindset? What do you do?
Talking about me?
Yeah. How do you dig your way up the hill?
If I came in and I inherited the Muskego Muskies roster, what would I do?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about like selling everything, to get draft picks or whatever, time of year is important because, like, obviously you're looking for assets that are going to help you sooner rather than later, right? So when I decided to do all this last time, let's call it rebuild 4.0. I wasn't getting 25 picks. I was barely getting 26 picks. So I ended up with some seconds in 25, like a first in 27, some 28s. Like, I can't do anything with that. So I just decided, well, I'll go get a quarterback. That's what I wanted to get first. So I got Love and Penix. And I just decided first things first, I wanted to get out of pink. So I think I'm building a roster that is still young enough to progress and compete, but gets me out of pink.
So what's more important, you getting out of pink or you getting above mid?
Well, getting out of pink. Get you fuckers off my case. I don't know. I mean, there's such a fine line some years between mid and, you know.
That's a good question. I mean, it's a different answer for everybody, right? So, like, it took me 3 fucking years to get out of the basement. And
are you out of the basement?
3 years. Oh,
are you?
3 instead of 2.
Are you currently in the basement?
I was like you, and I was like, hey, I'm going to fucking do it. And I wasn't ready. I think there's a lot of dynasty discipline that you have to have and stay on course. But when I go and I trade a fucking first round pick for Kyron Williams, when I'm not going to win a fucking game, that's a musky move.
Ooh.
Well, Kyron Williams is still young enough to be successful in that window that Nick was talking about. 10 wins, you're saying, Nick? 10 wins? 11
I'm
wins.
counting the debate between you guys.
Oh. So Kyron Williams.
I think the silver ballers may be your competition for pink right now. So at least you pulled in that conversation, because before it was you hands down.
Yeah, but you guys got a couple on the other side of the conference.
Yeah, but they're all gonna get 1 or 2 wins just beating up on each other. And in DD, it's basically me and Derek, and we play each other, and that's gonna be the deciding factor, pretty much.
Eric called you out. Kyron might not have his job next year. You said that.
No, there's no way someone's taking his job away.
Give him a
not
beer.
Yet. Not yet. I mean, he's got 1 year left on LA. We talked about this earlier. You know, I think he'll be fine next year. I mean, he's a legit running back. Beyond that, I don't know.
You shit, bro. I love you. I'm giving you shit because your team. Like I was bottom for a couple years, and I actually enjoy being a rebuilder, kind of almost more than being a contender, because it allows you to do a lot more moves. But you just got a lot of work ahead of you.
Well, the problem is I get bored. Like, I get insanely bored and just start looking at shit to trade. Like, kind of like I can't sit still type of a scenario. Like, okay, I'm going to make some moves. Like, when Tom was in DD, I'd just be sitting around the fire, be like, I'm bored, let's trade. And then we just, all right, just trade some shit. Here we go.
Yep. Tom likes to trade. He does.
Okay, so you posed the question. All right, if you were the owners of the Muskego Muskies for a day, what was the first thing you would do?
So I think you have Kyron Williams, and you have another player. I'd pull it up. But anybody
J-Mo?
that J-Mo. No, J-Mo probably fits. But anybody that's not on my roster that is going to help me 2-3 years from now, I'm probably looking to sell. The way I build, and it's not for everybody, and I'm not saying I have the right way, but the way I build is I like to build around wide receiver and quarterback, and then I'll go get my running backs when it's time to compete, just because their window is shorter, right? So that's what I would try to do. Me personally, and I know I'm out on the island here, I feel like I can find my defensive players cheaper than most. Because part of rebuilding is grinding. Like, you got to fucking grind, and you got to be able to pick up a player and not be committed to like, hey, I'm gonna, I love this player. Like, if there's a way that I can sell that player and get value, let's fucking go. So Kyron Williams, and I can pull it up while Nick talks, but you probably got another player that I'd at least probably, in my opinion,
I rebuilt my team a few years ago, but I was looking at it and go, okay, what is the most valuable position to trade? What can I get the most of? Because if you're in last or near last, you need multiple pieces. So quarterbacks in a super flex are the most valuable position ever. So I know that, hey, if I have a valuable quarterback, I can move them for multiple pieces, multiple picks, or a player and picks, or whatever it is. So like you went and got Love and Penix.
That's good.
It is good, but your team needs a lot more pieces than that. And so like even though Love like is a quarterback 2 right now or whatever, and he has a ceiling that, you know, you look at, you say it could be good. Same thing with Penix. There's a lot of hope there. But like, I might trade those players in hopes that somebody else wants to give multiple pieces for them and pick up other positional players that, even whether it be a linebacker if you're an IDP or a running back or a young receiver or whatever, and trade those players and get multiple picks that way. I mean, running back would be my last priority right away, because they're, you know, they are a little bit more short term, unless you can get a young guy who hasn't exploded yet. But you did a great job getting JMO. I mean, he's a young receiver, like high ceiling, good potential, good name, all that kind of stuff. Hadn't performed crazy until he had a good year last year. But that's what I would do. I would move quarterbacks and then make that my last priority, because you can get good quarterbacks and you can get decent, you know, serviceable quarterbacks, I should say, that can do the job in other places.
I don't know. I don't dislike what you got, except for Kyron. Like, Love is fine. Penix is who I would be targeting if I were you. Your wide receivers that you have that are any significance are young, with Adonai Mitchell, J-Mo. But yeah, I just think Kyron probably doesn't fit. But I mean, I get it. And maybe you can, if you would, you know, maybe your plan is to sell them off in the middle of the season to a contender for more than what you paid for, which is good. What I did is I fucking, like I said, I grinded that waiver wire. I would recommend setting your contracts, because we get 120. I'd recommend setting your contracts low, 105, to allow you flexibility to grind that waiver wire. And then, I mean, I don't know how it is in DD, but I would try to flip as much as I fucking could.
The problem with the quarterback, you know, scenario that Nick came up with is, I mean, I tried to get quarterbacks at a bargain, and it's not easy. You don't get bargain quarterbacks. They're just not there. So I went for quarterback first and tried to figure out the rest, you know,
And you went for
Love
young ones. It's fine. Yeah.
Love will be fine. Penix, we'll see. But the problem is, if you trade a quarterback, great. You got 2 firsts, whatever. You still got to find a quarterback. You know, they're not cheap. I went all over the place. Yeah. And trying to find cheap quarterbacks, and they don't exist. Like, I mean, Baker Mayfield was lightning in a bottle. I mean, I'm not going to say you got lucky, but you got lucky, you know.
You got to find the deals like Matt did with 25 Warbucks for fucking Geno Smith. Like, that's the shit.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, and I know I'm very different than most, because I never have the best quarterbacks. I always have quarterbacks that are, you know, somewhat decent, and then I stack other positions. And there's a million different ways to skin a cat. But yeah, I mean, you can get a Geno Smith or whatever, and a lot of people don't think highly of a Geno. I'm not a big Geno fan, but on a yearly basis, he's a middling quarterback too, and he puts up a few points less a week than your better quarterbacks. And then if you trade him for multiple pieces, you can get, I mean, shit, people devalue IDP, like good linebackers and DNs and all that kind of stuff. And you can pick up those guys at a discounted rate and then get another player. And then you got 2 pieces as opposed to the 1. But
yeah, man, we gave you as much advice as we probably should.
I wasn't listening.
No, man. Yeah, I would just stay with it and grind. That'd be my opinion. That's what I would do. That was my recommendation if I was.
I mean, I think I'm more on a. I think I have more of a plan that I can stick to than previous years. So I'm anxious for the draft coming up, and we're gonna make some muskies.
There you go. All right. Well, that was Inside the Mind of Dan. Appreciate you letting us venture in that long, lonely hallway.
I'm glad you guys survived. I'm glad you survived.
So, boys, this was first show. We're nearing hour 30. I figured that's probably where we'd be at. Go ahead and do any closing remarks. Nick, you got anything you want to say to anybody?
Here's to another fantasy season, boys. I mean, it's an exciting time. The NFL draft is not far away in Green Bay. I'll look at one of my beers that I'm drinking. It's actually a Packers on the Clock draft from Fox River Brewing. We're hosting the draft in about a month here, and excitement couldn't be higher. But yeah, the draft's going to start here, and then shortly after that, our fantasy and dynasty drafts. All the rookie hopefuls, hopefully everybody who has picks, not myself, but everybody who has picks can hit on those picks, and it's going to be an awesome year.
Hey, I got one more thing in the mind of Dan as far as like overrated things. How about the NFL draft in Green Bay? I think it's kind of overrated.
You think it's overrated?
Yeah, I mean,
well, they're tearing out a bunch of shit so they get you guys to make way for that.
What are you gonna do, Nick? You're gonna get drunk in the parking lot like you do every Sunday during the season.
Yeah. It's actually kind of crazy because like when you're like our little town is just over 100,000 people, and there's going to be 500,000 people ushered into Green Bay, and like they're shutting down roads starting tomorrow to build grandstands for the draft, and everybody's trying to figure out what's going on, and there's drop spots because you won't be able to park anywhere near Lambeau, and it's kind of crazy. But the NFL, like my work does a lot of work with them, and they're pretty confident that it's going to go off awesome. And you know, we were worried about one of the questions that I put up is, I'm like, how are we gonna have all these people around there? And they're like, you don't realize that the area around there is bigger than what they have in most bigger cities because it's so condensed with buildings and all that kind of stuff, and we don't have that here. So yeah, it's gonna be a good time. And
I went when they had it in Philly. It was a lot of fun, a lot of good times.
Yeah, so I'm sure it'll go off good.
Yeah.
Send me some offers. Let's trade. Nick.
Hey, what? Tyler said he sent you an offer, so there you go.
Oh boy, here we go. Should we?
Hey, so
should we air the garbage live on air?
No.
No, we wouldn't. No, we wouldn't do that. No. Come on, Tyler, give me the best offer.
Yeah. Hey, it was good. It was good getting with you boys for beers with the boys, beer and football. I don't know when the next time we'll get together. We'll see what the future holds, and hopefully we can make this a regular thing. I enjoyed it. If we had a couple people in the audience, appreciate that. And if you guys listen to it afterwards, you listen to it now, like and subscribe and let us know. Give us some feedback, and we'll introduce it into the next show. But it was always good kicking it with you boys, making fun of Dan. And that's a national pastime for us. So
that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Cheers,
I'm
boys.
sure I'll get it tomorrow. We'll see you. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah. So yeah, man, like and subscribe, and we'll go ahead and kick it off for this show. And appreciate everybody that came out.